Okay, start over. Section V. Section V, how cheat detection works. Catching cheating in chess can be a difficult task, but it is one that chess.com feels extremely confident in given our investment in track record. Statistics can give a strong indication, but can also be inconclusive in the context of numerous factors, such as opponent strength, opening moves, endgame moves, and other confounding factors. Indeed, numbers are just a starting point. By way of example, in the detection of sports doping in humanly high statistical performance is often a tip-off sports doping, not a confirmation. The same could be said in a further example for poker cheating. Corroboration of potential foul play, initially tipped off by anomalous performances, often requires extensive analysis and collection of evidence through comparative analytics, factual investigation, and detailed examination of other evidence. The same is true in evaluating whether a top player is cheating in chess. The basic concept of cheat detection, particularly at the top level of chess, is both statistical and manual, involving comparing the moves made to engine recommended moves, removing some moves, opening some endgame, focusing on key critical moves, discussing with a panel of trained analysts and strong players, comparing players' past performance and known profile, comparing a player's performance to performance of comparable peers. Looking at the statistical significance of the results, example, 1 in a million chance of happening naturally. Looking at if there are behavioral factors at play, example, browser behavior. Reviewing time usage when compared to difficulty of the moves of the board. Chess.com employs a highly rated and Grandmaster Fair Play Chess.com employs highly rated and Grandmaster Fair Play analysts precisely because there are many situations where humans are required to understand how human versus computer a move actually is. Human chess and computer chess are different, even at the highest levels. The best humans play at an ELO rating of 2800. Stockfish, the most powerful chess engine, has an estimated rating of more than 3500. In a theoretical match between world champion Magnus Carlsen versus Stockfish, we estimate that it is most likely that Magnus Carlsen would lose every single game. No wins and no draws. Okay. Most chess engines use neural nets, which have been trained on millions of top-level chess games to capture the deepest of chess strategic understanding. They also have nearly infallible tactical calculations, as they can look at more than 40 plus moves deep into the position and calculate potential outcomes. Humans rely on past experiences, heuristics, and guidelines, pattern recognition, and a fallible ability to calculate moves in the future where they cannot see the live position. This leads to humans dismissing potentially winning moves because they look to be bad based on past experience or general principles, or general chess principles. But a computer is not restrained by these rules and will often make a human, even an elite player, but a computer is not restrained by these rules and will often make moves a human, even an elite player, would immediately reject. Similarly, even the best chess playing humans often make moves that seem sound but are bad due to a series of calculations which show it to be losing. Some players who have studied engines can profile human moves and engine moves based on expert knowledge of the characteristics discussed above. The better you are at chess, the deeper the profile you are able to develop around discriminating between human and computer moves. Okay, so all right, so they have this long bit, which I don't think I'm gonna get into all of this right now, but there's this long bit where they talk about what they have exactly. But it is interesting. Okay, so let's pages 11 to 15 we're going to take a quick look at as well. Page 11. Okay, Hans is over the board rise. Outside of his online play, Hans is the fastest rising top player in classical chess, over the board chess in modern history. So one thing that I'm not reading the whole thing, don't worry, I'm not reading the whole thing, but I do want to say one of the things that's really important to note about this is they say this quite clearly, that at the end of the day, they are saying that Hans is the fastest rising top player in classical over the board chess in modern history. Now, one thing that definitely that kind of, as I was looking through this report last night, even this morning, I haven't looked through the whole thing obviously, but as I've been looking through the report, it feels like on the one hand, yes, they put out the statement at the beginning where they say there's no concrete evidence he cheated. On the other hand, it feels like there are a lot of statistics in here that to me seem to suggest that they do have a lot of suspicions about his over the board play as well. Okay, with each new generation of chess players, there's a small group who will eventually emerge as the top players. Some of the big names in the current generation are Alireza Firouzja, Vincent Kamer, and Arjun Erigaisi. Looking purely at rating, Hans should be classified as a member of this group of top young players. While we do not doubt that Hans is a talented player, we note that his results are statistically extraordinary. Now keep in mind, this is talking about over the board again. Increase in strength, As set forth in table 3, between 2014 and 2022, Hans's over-the-board classical strength score, according to chess.com strength score, increased from 67.79 to 90.90. Weighted slope of 2.67 per year. I don't know what that means. In comparison, Alireza's strength score only increased from 77.41 to 91.33. So it's like 23-ish. And this is what, 77 to 91. So it's 14 versus 23, weighted slope of 161. Okay, I don't know what that really is supposed to mean. During the same period, Hans is consistently above many contemporaries in strength increases, even though he has only recently shown the same caliber of play. Likewise, it's set for the figures A and B below. Hans had the fastest and biggest increase in his score over time in comparison to his peers and other notable players when considering all of their known classical over-the-board games from the ages of 11 to 19. So when people think this is cherry picked, it's not, because this is the age Hans is, so this is the only data that you have. So when we look at this, the weighted gain is 2.66. Vincent came or close at 2.2. Then there's this little known Indian scrub, Gukesh, D Gukesh, 1.98. Not very good, obviously. Pragnant at 1.76. Alireza, considered the greatest junior player, 1.6. Arjun, wow, what a terrible player, right? 1.28. Woo. Terrible, right? Terrible. Hans is better than all these players. I'm obviously trolling, because I think the world of Gukesh and Arjun, obviously. But this is pretty wild, isn't it? Now, I don't know what this is based on, because it can't clearly be based on this can't be based on pure rating gain, because Arjun has had a huge gain, as has everybody else. So I don't know what this is based on exactly. Because this can't purely be based, this is not based on the actual rating gain, but like Arjun's had a massive gain. He's had a huge run up. So has D Gukesh. Vincent, I think, is not as recent. It's gained over time, so Arjun's gained a lot, but he's been doing, so yeah, so it's saying it's much slower rate basically of improvement. So Arjun's just been like slowly just, he keeps improving. Am I a data analyst? Yes, you guys, I am now not a data analyst. Okay. So he by far and away, by the way, this is pretty amazing. Look, it's 2.66. This is 2.66 versus everybody else. So okay, fair enough, let's keep going. And then there are more. Okay, let's see, we have Noterbeck. Okay, Noterbeck 1.38, not bad. Nihal Sarin 1.17. Daniel Dayak Bogdan 0.95. Jeffrey Zhang 0.7. Jorn Van Foor 0.7. Esipenko 0.49. So I don't know, I have seen some of the charts below. So when I look at this, I think what it means is, I think they're saying that like Jeffrey, Jorn Van Foor, and Andre, they might be washed, right? They might be washed chess players. They might be over the hill. They might have hit their peak and never improve again. So I think it is possible that, like, I mean, that these three guys, they gotta start studying 10 hours every day like Hans. They gotta really get back into it. So okay, also one thing that is interesting here about this, though, is that what I have said is that I have felt that of the Indians, I think Nihal is a very strong player, but I do feel like the others have higher ceilings. I have said, like, Gukesh and Arjun specifically, like, I feel like they have the best chance of getting to like the top 5 in the game of chess. And so it's actually interesting that these stats on move strength, even though I obviously have not done any math, my intuition is supported by this, that I do feel like Arjun and Gukesh, actually Pragnan's up there too, but Gukesh and Arjun, I felt like they have a much higher peak than Nihal. And even though it's based on my intuition, the stats actually kind of back that up, which is interesting to note. Okay, so we have figure A, the infamous figure, I guess you could say, which shows the over the board strength improvement, and you see Hans, of course, greatest strength improvement of all time. Yeah, and I think that's okay. Here we go to page 13. Oh, there are 2 more pages to read. We have increase in rating. Figures C and D below show that Hans had the fastest and largest increase in FIDE classical ELO when compared to a list of his peers and other notable players, when considering all their classical OTB games played after they reached 2500 ELO. Figure C, ELO change over time after achieving 2500, where Hans is in this, I believe this is Hans is the pink line that's gaps here. So Hans, basically, you see it's like one peak then just spiking. It goes down, which is interesting. There's this little downward, then right back up. Now I don't know exactly what this means. The only thing that I can look at when I look at these squiggly lines is that you don't see plateaus as much, it feels like. Like you don't see someone, I guess, who's this green line? This green line is Prague. Wait, this dark green line is, oh, actually, wait. No, this dark green line is Nihal, right? This is Nihal, this dark green line. So there is a long peak here. There is a long peak here for you can see my cursor. So there's a long line here where this might be, is this COVID? I don't know if it's COVID times or not, but he definitely has the sharpest rise for sure. Sharpest rise in particular when you see this 26 to 2700. Nobody else has. I mean, you have this the orange Jordan Van Forest. He goes up, down, but he's already well above 2600 by this point. So when you see the rise, he by far and away has the steepest rise. No doubt about it. He has the steepest rise. It's very strange too, because when you look at the stats of the rise, it gets harder and harder to gain points. That's the thing that people realize. So for example, if you're starting out today, I would say someone today could probably go from 0 to 1000 like that. Like if someone puts in some hours and studies, they could gain 1000 points probably within the first 3 months they play the game. But as you get higher and higher, it becomes harder and harder to gain rating points. And now of course I know this directly myself. And so yeah, when you see that, it's it's hard to see someone gain, like it feels like Hans is struggling to get to 23 to 24, and then suddenly he goes 24 to 25 and then 25 to 27. So it's like it should be harder and harder, and it looks like it's actually becoming easier and easier. 1000 points at 2000, no. 2000 you're not going to be able to get to 1000 to 2000, no. It'll probably be if you let's just say you study a lot every day, like you have 10 hours and you're studying every day, you can probably get from 0 to 1000 pretty quickly, maybe 1000 to like 1600, and then you start to hit the wall and you have to work really hard to start gaining points. There are a lot of actually streamers, I feel like Sardosh I think is a great example. He wasn't very strong when we started with PogChamps. He got to like 1600, I feel like, maybe even 1700, and now he's stuck there. He's been stuck there for a little while, but it was really fast, like really quickly Sardosh went up, and now he's kind of hit the wall. Okay, so let's see. Time between achieving 2500 elo and 2700 elo or peak rating. We have all the players here. Okay, so time between, so this is the longest amount of time. So Dayak took the longest amount of time. Hans by far and away the shortest amount of time, shorter even than the greatest junior player Ali Reza, significantly short. It's like 1 3/4. Now both of them here are actually much shorter than anybody else, which is interesting. So Magnus, it took him 3 years. I'm guessing I'm such a bad chess player that I'm nowhere on any of these graphs, which kind of makes me a little bit sad that I'm so weak at chess, but maybe I am. Anyway, yeah, so it took Magnus 3 years. Everybody else took a long time. Took Ali Reza 2 years, and now Hans Niemann has the quickest jump. And so this is the thing is like, it feels like I know they make the statement, but the way I read it is actually quite different. I don't read it as they make the statement that he hasn't cheated, but then they give all these things that I think people are going to take. And I mean, there are things that look a little bit surprising if you look at these graphs for sure. So it's like maybe I'm crazy for saying this, but I almost feel like it's like in the first page, which everyone is reading, you put like he didn't cheat, and then you put all these things further in the further in the report. You hope nobody reads it, which I'm sure that's not the case, but that's actually kind of how I view this a little bit. Is that it's like you're like, okay, we're gonna put the bold on page 2, and then all the other stuff is gonna be further down. So okay. Yeah, so again, Hans is apparently the great according to these stats, Hans is probably like the greatest chess player of all time, literally the greatest chess player of all time, or something has happened. And one of the things from my personal experience being in the chess world and having seen many of these junior players who have improved over the years is I've made this point, this is an intuition point, but I've said that many top players, like you see sparks, even if they're not 2700, you see sparks, you see these glimmers of like sheer brilliance from all these juniors. Like to use Magnus, I spoke about this when he played the 2004 World Cup in Libya, in Tripoli, the capital. I mean, it's crazy there was a tournament there, but there was he played Levon Aronian. There was glimmer when I saw Magnus's games there. I saw it. I saw something special in those games, the way he was playing against an absolute beast like Levon at the time. So the reason you're not in the reports is because your cheating report is coming out next. Cheers, my friend. Cheers for the troll. So as I was saying, as we look at the graphs here, there's something special, something very, very special. Very, very special. You're lucky I'm not banning you for that. I probably should, but I'm in a good mood, so I won't. So as I was saying, when you look at this graph, for example, or not this graph, but when you look at the brilliances, you see those sparks of brilliance. What you see is you see it like Ding Laurent. He was like 2550, maybe 2600. I don't remember the games exactly, but I remember when I was in Bursa. It was actually Bursa during the World Team Championship in 2008. I think it was. I was playing the King's Indian. It was 2010. Sorry. And I played against Boris Gelfand there, so I was playing the King's Indian a lot during that time, and I remember seeing a couple of Ding's games around that time from like Chinese League or things like that, and it was just amazing. Like you see these glimmers. And I will say, like, I will just say outright, I've never saw glimmers like this from Hans. I've never seen someone where I did not see anything that really stood out to me suddenly go from like 0 to hero. I've never seen that. I have never seen that with any other junior in the entire world. I've never seen it. So yeah. Again, like I said, I really think there are only two ways you look at it. There really are only two ways, in my opinion, that you look at it. Like, either he is probably the greatest chess player of all time, or something has happened. I don't think it's really very black and white. Really black and white. I don't think there's any other way of looking at it. Okay, so let's keep going. Plateau in strength. Furthermore, as set forth in figure E, Hans also had two rating plateaus that are uncharacteristic of the class of improving chess prodigies who become elite GMs. From January 2016 to August 2018, 32 months, 297 FIDE rated games, his rating fluctuated between 2254 and 2350. He then gained 89 points from August to September 2018 before settling into a new plateau between 2400 and 2500 from September 2018 to January 2021. 40 months, 202 games played during the pandemic COVID era. So again, I'm not a data scientist, but there are two peaks, which apparently does not happen. Do they have another FIDE rating? I wish they would show somebody else's FIDE rating so I could compare it, but I guess they don't, unfortunately. But apparently this is odd. Okay. C figures F and G shows phenomenon compared to other players. Hans in blue. So let me double check. So the peak is around 2300 and 2400. So we have this peak, right? And then wait, is this Hans in the blue line? This is Hans, right? So we have peak number 1 here, peak number 1 and peak number 2. So there are two peaks. Nobody else. Okay, so we see. What do we see? Like, who's this red line is. This is Magnus. He is 1 peak, 2 peaks, but they're much higher. They're much higher peaks, right? They're much higher. The peaks are much higher. So that's what they're saying. Again, someone who looks at the charts can definitely look at this and tell. But that's what they're saying, at least. Okay. In general, this is a note. In general, prodigies that reach 2700 have smoother trajectories because they are working consistently toward their goal. They generally plateau or reach slower rates of growth once they start to hit their peak. Our view of the data is that Hans, however, has had an uncharacteristically erratic growth period mired by consistent plateaus. Okay. Page 15, figure G, elo change by age. Okay, there are too many lines on this, and it's too small for me. So, what do we have? We have Hans in the pink line. Yeah, okay. I don't. Yeah, he goes up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, squiggly. Do I have a guess of how long it took for me to go to 2500? It took me a long time, actually. If I think about it. Okay, so I made my final GM norm in Bermuda. I believe it was I was 15, so that would have been I believe that was January of 2003 that I became a GM, if I'm not mistaken. 87 to 2000. Yeah, it was January 2003. I made my final GM norm in Bermuda. I believe I won my last 3 games. I beat Pascal the American Paschal the American IM. I beat Michael Mollier, and I beat one other player. I don't remember who it was right off, but I think I won my last 3 games to make that GM norm. So it's January 2003 that I broke 2500. I won the US championship in 2000 and it was 2004, all 2005. I want to say that I broke 2700 in May of 2008 during the French team championship in, I don't know if it was Montpellier or where it was, but I think it was May of 2008 it was May or April of 2008, because then I played the US championship. Or wait, was it 2008? Yeah, well, it was 2008, but I believe. I think it was like May of 2000. It was May of 2008 or May of 2009. Maybe it was 2009, actually, now that I think about it. Actually, I think it was 2009. So it was 2009. It took me about 6 years Took me about 6 years if I'm not mistaken. You go from about 2500 to 2700. So all right, so I think this is it for this page, right? So what do we have as set forth in table 4? Another key data point that informed our analysis is the fact there are only 13 players currently ranked in the world's top 50 players who are younger than 25. Hans is the only player who became a GM at age 17. Another anomaly. The other 12 players all achieved this title between ages of 12 and 16. And here we go again. All these players, I guess, became GMs between 12 and 16. So yeah, so like I said, it really is black and white, and everybody's gonna have their own opinion of it. In general terms, I think, like, yeah, as an active FIDE rated player at ages 15, 16, 17 pre-pandemic years, Hans had ratings of 2313, 2460 and 2465 respectively. The conventional wisdom is that if you are not a GM by the age 14, it is unlikely that you can reach top levels of chess. While the statement may seem discouraging, it has been borne out in modern chess. Greats like Fischer, Kasparov, Carlsen, and almost all of the modern GMs who have been established as top 5 players were notable GMs by age 15 at the latest. Exactly. And of course, I became a GM at 15 years old, a couple months younger than Bobby Fischer. Okay, so that's the next bit. And now I should read pages 18 and 19. What do we have? Page 18. Okay, here we go. Now this part I did read this bit when I was off stream last night, so this isn't completely new to me. As part of Hans's overall over the board performance, in addition to aggregate view, we also wanted to review his strongest individual event in greater detail. We look for over performances, including those based on his strength of play in each event versus his overall strength that year. As noted previously, chess.com, that's why I'm not top 0. That's why I'm not on any charts. Yeah, because I'm just a bad chess player. What can I say? I'm just bad. It took me 6 years, so I'm just not in any conversation. Of course, now the trolls, what the trolls would say is they would say, well, because Hikaru is such a 5-head, he's such a 5-head, he took 6 years so that no one would suspect anything, right? That's the 5-head play. He took 6 years instead of doing it too fast, right? That would be the 5-head, the 5-head move. Okay, section 10. Okay, section 10. Okay, sorry, this section. The Sinquefield Cup and the too slow, also sus. Yeah, the Sinquefield Cup and the game with Magnus Carlsen. Finally, the game between Hans and Magnus at the Sinquefield Cup does on its own merit analysis, as its results, circumstances, and explanation are unique and have become the object of immense public debate and controversy. Hans beat Magnus in a classical game with the black pieces, breaking Magnus's 53-game unbeaten streak and becoming one of only 5 players in the past 5 years to beat Magnus while he was playing with white pieces. Hans explained that his success was not anything special and largely due to Magnus having played quite poorly and having quote-unquote miraculously prepared specifically for the opening that Magnus played. By some miracle, I had checked this today, and it's such a ridiculous miracle that I don't even remember why I checked it. Okay, in fact, Magnus has only played 4G3 twice previously, both before 2010, and the position after Hans castled on move 4 had never been seen in any of Magnus's games. Hans in a later interview commented that Magnus had previously played the opening against Wesley So in the 2018 London Chess Classic, but there is no such game on record. Magnus did play a G3 Nimzo Indian against Wesley So in a rapid game in Kolkata in 2019, but the move order and the emerging position of the game had no similarities to the game against Hans. Hans's 9 c takes d4 had only been played once previously in a June 2022 title Tuesday game between Rasmus Savain and Stelios Halkias. Okay. Wow. Oh, the footnotes actually mention the stream we had. Nice, we made it. In the post-game analysis on move 13, Hans proposed the error 13 queen h4 saying queen h4 might be a move here. The move loses the bishop on g5 without any obvious compensation or follow-up. The moment, among others, led to criticism from other top chess players who were surprised that a player who could outplay Magnus so easily with the black pieces could then suggest such a move in a game that he had just played. After proposing the move, Hans requested to see the engine evaluation, saying, what does it say? What does the engine say? To confirm that this move lacked a purpose. This analysis and dependence on the engine seems to be at odds with the level of preparation that Hans claimed was at play in the game, and the level of analysis needed to defeat the world chess champion. Okay, We also measured that for the first 3 games of the Sinquefield Cup, Hans played with a chess.com strength score of 97.17. After round 3, the event organizers, in response to the cheating allegations, added a 15-minute delay to the broadcast of the chess moves. For rounds 4 to 9, Hans achieved a strength score of 86.31. Other players also had some interesting changes in strength as measured by chess.com. This can be attributed to any number of factors, including the ensuing situation after Magnus withdrew, different opponents, etc. In our view, no conclusion should be made from this data. Okay, so yeah, so he played worse after the delay. Obviously his results were worse. There are many factors there. That is the one thing here that I think is a little bit too much to put stock in, because obviously after the delay you can say, well, yeah, maybe if he was doing something, obviously he would play worse with the delay and other factors. On the other hand, there was obviously a lot of stuff going on at the time, so you can't really, I think, use that as any kind of conclusion. Now, if Hans plays his next couple of tournaments at like a much lower like strength score or whatever these metrics are, I do think that it will definitely look a little bit stranger for sure. Okay, so this was the other bit that I was supposed to cover, so let's move on. That's it from the report for right now. What do we have? We have some tweets and stuff. Let's cover this. What's this tweet? This is from Tarjay. According to chess.com, Niemann had 3 blatant lies in a St. Louis interview. Said he would never cheat in prize events. Obviously he did. Said he cheated in random games. Said he didn't cheat while streaming. Okay, next up, what is this? What do we have? We have an article. Does this load? Okay, let me translate. Use Google Translate. Okay, what is this article? Okay, we have, this is on Hans Niemann. Let me make this a little bit smaller so you guys can see it. New report accuses Niemann of 3 lines. Oh, I can't access this. Am I paywalled? I'm paywalled. Okay, I can't cover this one. Okay, that's life. That's okay. No biggie. Let's keep going. We have other stuff too. Okay, what do we have? Twitter, another tweet. What is this? We have suggestion for chess.com, lead chess, and FIDE chess. If you have a high statistical probability of a player cheating online, exclusively start pairing them with your strongest bots, engines. Cheat the cheaters. Okay, I assume that's just meant as a joke. I don't really know how you're supposed to do that exactly, but it is what it is. Okay, let's keep going. What else do we have? We have another tweet from Antonio. We have a tweet from Agadmator which says, drama conclusion. Actually, let me make this a little bit bigger. It's a little bit off. Second. Drama conclusion from Antonio. Okay, let me put this here. Pull this out. This says, drama conclusion, chess.com is unaware of any concrete evidence proving that Hans is cheating over the board or has ever cheated over the board. Okay, so this is Antonio making this tweet. Now again, this is correct what he says. I again read the report a little bit differently though. I do read the report differently. He like, that is the bullet point they say, is that like there are all these anomalies, but these anomalies are not enough to say that someone is cheated over the board. So yeah, it's kind of like I read the report differently. So he puts this tweet out. What do we have? Do we have some tweets and replies? Okay, that's half the conclusion. Okay, online games, all this other stuff. Yeah, so I mean it is what it is. What do we have? I was told that there's some replies in here that are a little bit. What do we have? Some replies. I don't know. Are these just, I don't know if these are replies. So I was told there were some replies that were unusual. But anyway, yeah, so that's yeah, Antonio's not wrong with what he's saying in general terms. That is what they say over the board. At the same time, I read the report quite differently though. I read the report as like they're making sure that legally they're fine, but they still do show all these anomalies. And that's read the replies. Okay, that's half the conclusion. A Gabtor in online games around 100 games. 100 games when they're finding suspicious and have evidence. They suspect over the board, but also need more investigation or no means to confirm right now. Hans only said he cheated 2 times. Looks like he kept doing it. Antonio says, I'm only interested in OTB. If online cheating was the issue, they shouldn't have let him play in the first place. What? He can play unless he beats Magnus. Now, Okay, this is tough. This is tough. Antonio's reply here, you know, I have to say, Antonio is a fantastic content creator. He makes great content on games. I do think that for Antonio, the level of a player that he's at, though, is not at that level where you can sort of where he's strong enough that he can try to say that he understands online and over the board as being separate. I mean, I honestly feel like at the end of the day, online and over the board now, especially because the tournaments are very major, they do matter. I think that in general, you know, I would say as far as chess.com goes, if someone's like 12 years old and they do some cheating in a random blitz game or something like that, I feel like people should get a second chance. I don't think that should be treated as something that's like, you know, the end of the world. But when you're talking about prize money tournaments and trying to separate that from over the board, I really cannot be okay with that. I think trying to separate it is not right. I'm disappointed. I'm actually disappointed that Antonio says that, trying to say that online and over the board are completely different, because I think it's a bad take. I think it's a bad take. I do feel like that, because cheating is cheating no matter what. Like I said, if someone does it like one time, for example, like if it's one time and it's like, I don't know, they're playing against Nepo or something, they're trying to play against me, I feel like you have to give them a second chance. I don't think that should be taken as something like crazy insane, like, you know, the world should close, or the world should be ending for them. But when you're cheating in prize money tournaments, I cannot be okay with that. Like, even one time in these prize money tournaments, I can't really be okay with it. So that's my take on the Antonio tweet. I'm a little surprised by this. I am a little bit surprised by this, that they're trying. I mean, obviously on the one hand, you can try to feel bad. Hans is a kid. He's done things wrong. I mean, we get that, and you want to be sympathetic. At the same time, he's taking money away from other professional players. So I don't really agree with this. I think it's a bit of a bad take. Let's go to Emil. Okay, what's this? We have Emil here. Emil tweets, I think you're mixing two things. World champion has to follow the procedure. FIDE has it clearly described. Mags didn't follow it. However, presumption of innocence can't serve as protection from being accused. It can protect from being found guilty without sufficient proof. Okay, I don't understand what they're saying. Magus has to follow the procedure. FIDE has it clearly described. Magus didn't follow it. However, presumption of innocence can't serve as protection from being accused. It can protect from being found guilty. Okay. Look at the parent tweet. Okay, what is the tweet? It's what did Jonathan Rouse tweet? He says chess.com's report is marketing. It's 20 pages, not 72. What? No evidence of OTV cheating at all, and their attempt to whip it up is embarrassing. Oh man, you know, it's gonna be crazy going forward, because, you know, I have to say, like, looking at this, there are a lot of people that I've known over many years who I have great respect for, and a lot of people, their takes just don't make any sense to me, and it's very very surprising when I see someone like Jonathan Rousen, for example. He's a strong grandmaster. He's from Scotland. He's you know, he's written many books. Very nice guy. Very prominent in the field of chess. And it feels to me like people really, there are a lot of people who want to try to separate over the board from online. They want to say that over the board is different. I feel like, you know, you either have to take this issue seriously, or you want to brush it under the rug and pretend that nobody is going to ever cheat. But I think at the end of the day, cheating is going to occur more, and it's a very serious issue if things are not done. So yeah, I'm a little surprised with Emil's reply, though. I think what he's saying here that you should be able to do things in a certain way, where you can go to FIDE and say you're suspicious about somebody, and that will basically that you can't like be suspended or banned or anything like that, even if it turns out to be wrong. There's supposed to be some kind of procedure. Okay, so that was Emil. Let's pull up the next one. Okay, what's this tweet? We have a tweet from Mr. Llama, the great content creator who plays Diablo all the time. He's also gotten to, much like Sardoche, he's gotten to like 1700 rated on chess.com, or maybe a little above it, and he's kind of gotten stuck there. I am not cutting out. I think everything is good. You might need to refresh the stream. Okay, Amazing to watch people defend someone who cheated over 100 times and think that he magically just stopped cheating and became a chess prodigy instead of just becoming better at cheating and finding it easier to implement over the board. Okay, again, I mean, I think there are many ways to look at it. There are many ways to look at it. So yeah, who knows? All right, Ben Johnson, we have 3 tweets from Mr. Perpetual Podcast himself. I will probably play Arena Kings, but not for a little bit. We're gonna keep going through all this stuff for right now, at least. So okay, we also have an important poll, which is, should online cheating and OTB cheating be totally separate? No info shared, yes. No effect, 10%, unsure, 8%. Yeah, I think honestly at this point it should be. I think at this point I think it should be shared. Absolutely, 100%. If this report is the full extent of Hans online cheating, admittedly quite extensive, that stopped in 2020, and he never cheated OTB, then IMO, it would behoove Hans to admit this all and specifically address the OTB cheating speculation. Okay, number 2, obviously he is not the most credible person at this point, but better to start being honest now than never, again assuming he has nothing more to hide. And then Ben's third tweet says, this is a second attempt at expressing nuance on Twitter. I deleted the tweet that first attempted it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I actually, this is the thing that I don't get. Why is Hans not saying anything? He hasn't said anything for like, he hasn't said anything. And honestly, with Chess.com putting this out there now, they were saying initially that if Hans admitted it and spoke about it, the Chess.com speak about it. Now, of course, Chess.com, I assume legally they felt they could bring this out because it's a public interest, and they said everything. So where is Hans' reply to what they said? Where is his reply? And he's not saying anything. So I'm actually surprised, because Chess.com said, like, we want to share it, but probably legally we can't. And they're like, okay, they talked to their lawyers, they're like, okay, we actually can share everything because it's in public interest or whatnot. They do, and still Hans is not saying anything. So it's very, very surprising. So yeah, all right, next up, what do we have? We have another tweet. We have a tweet from Tarjay. Cheating isn't the only issue in the chess world. So is players buying their titles. Norms. Yes, this is also a good example. A well-known WGM who bought all her norms. An IM who paid for all his norms, and at least one GM norm. 2 world-class GMs fixing games in top event. Now, I don't know actually what this top GMs is, because as you read through it, says also the GM who played 2 identical games in the same tournament, one from the winning side and one from the losing side. So like this is pretty insane. I have no idea who this is. Winning side and one from the losing side, like, you know. But again, like, game fixing is like, yeah, it's oh, he later named Mamedyarov. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gross. And by the way, the norms thing, this by the way is another thing. Speaking of the chess world, there are all these things that are kind of kept off. They're not at the surface, so the general public isn't aware of them. But when we talk about like norms, I've spoken about this before, but I remember there was a tournament that I played in Hungary. It was the first Saturday tournament, and it was like, I don't know when it was like 2003. This was like the first time that I was trying to make IM norms, and so this is like, maybe it's 2001 even. This is like ages and ages ago. I don't even remember the year. Someone can figure it. But I played a Hungarian IM in the tournament. I won't say his name, obviously. But basically he was willing to offer, if you gave him like $100, I think it was, if you gave, maybe it was $50, it would be a draw. Now this is 20 plus years ago. $50, you get your draw against him. And if it's, I think it was 50 and 100, but it might have been 100 and 200. But like if you gave like $100 or $200, then he would lose the game to you. So yeah, I mean, don't forget this is a long time ago. This is Eastern Europe. You're talking, you know, things have changed for sure. But anyway, this is something that's been known for a long time. I'm talking like 20 years ago. Ever heard of this thing called inflation, folks? $50 like 20 years ago is probably like $5,000 today, especially with inflation out of control. Eugene Perelstein. I am a grandmaster. I played a near perfect over the board game for 27 moves versus Carlsen in 2017 on International or Isle of Man International. I remember this game, by the way. I remember this game. Imagine if I didn't make a mistake and won the game only to get accused of cheating by the world champ. How can one player ruin the reputation for life of any GM? Again, one of the big problems with all these takes where they try to say like one game is that as far as Hans goes, there was a lot of speculation. This was not something new. And off of one game, nobody is going to, well, maybe I'm wrong because that has happened, but basically nobody is gonna like say like, okay, this guy's cheating or something based off of one game. That's what everyone seems to miss in all of this. They act like, oh yeah, it was just one game, and you know, it's one game of, and that's what brought this on. It's not about one game. It's about the fact that for 2+ years there were rumors about Hans and things that might have happened both online and over the board. So when people act like this, some like new thing or something that's based off of one game, it's not. If I lose a game to 2450 or I lose a game to 2500 player, whatever it is, like I'm not gonna suddenly think they're cheating against me off of one game. You never even think about that. You never even think about that off of one game. I will also say, like, I cannot think of any other player, you know, like you hear about someone like one game online, things like this. Like there are many times someone gets salty, mad about a game online, match online, whatever, and they think something happened. You never hear about multiple instances or multiple people with like lots of suspicions. There's nobody else that I can think of where I've heard multiple people having like lots of suspicions about it. Nobody else ever in my entire life. Nobody else where I can think of that. Maybe like Rouses at some point I heard about it from a few people, but never with anybody else was it more than just like one random person salty about a random game. So again, I'm kind of like, I think people are missing the context here. We have 2 more tweets, then we'll play Arena Kings. We have another tweet. What is this? This is a tweet from Noel Studer. Chess.com knew Hans very likely. It's 2 minutes. Chess.com knew Hans very likely cheated over 100 times. Over 100 times, and would have let him play in the global championship were it not for Magnus. That's insane. Online cheating by GMs would be heavily discouraged if name dropping was at least a minor risk. Also very true. Like I said, I agree with chess.com's policy. I do, because I think the notion is like, so if someone does it once, they think, okay, I can do it, I can get away with it. That's you know, that's what it is. You get caught and you're like, oh, what the heck? Like they're really freaking good at what they do. And so I agree with their policy, but I think after what has happened now with Hans, I think from now on it's going to be like anybody is probably not protected. I'm betting they're going to rewrite the TOS and everything else and go from there. So all right, we have 2 more tweets to cover, and then we're going to play Arena King. So let me just get to them. Let me pull this up. Okay, what do we have? Two more tweets. We have this tweet. Okay, chess.com. Peter Svidler, I'm a bit of a hardliner on this. I draw very little distinction between cheating live and cheating online. I think the attitude of chess players as a community towards cheating online has been very lax and a lot more forgiving than it should be. I agree, absolutely. And again, the reason this has all become such a big issue is because I think chess.com's policy worked, but then there was a kid who came along who basically, I feel like I can say this, took advantage of the situation, took advantage of Danny trying to be helpful, trying to you know, help a kid out, and you have someone who breaks the system because of what he did. And now I think because of what has happened, we're in a world where things are going to be completely different. And I also think, frankly, it's probably a good thing now. I think this, you know, honestly, I think this might have happened anyway at some point. But it's good this probably happens now, because now everybody has to take it seriously, and everybody's going to realize, like, if you cheat and you get caught, you probably your name probably is going to be you're not leaked, but probably the info is going to be shared with FIDE. Probably that info is just going to be shared. So I agree with Peter. Like my attitude is, I feel like if it's like once and it's like random blitz games or something, like who cares? Honestly, who cares? But you know, when it comes to like tournaments and anything else, like beyond one time, that I have no sympathy at all, whether it's online or over the board. I think they are the same. I do believe that. So all right, okay.